Give us the research on how successful your program is. I know there were some papers and that you mentioned far better than any other program out there, because I think that's important from a
Yeah,
success perspective.
absolutely. People lose a tremendous amount of weight. Like in the first, just in the boot camp, in the first couple months, people lose on average 3 times more weight to 17 times more weight than they will lose on any other behaviorally based weight loss program, and about exactly as much weight as they would lose if they spent $1,000 a month on semaglutide drugs. About exactly that much. How much, you say? Well, it's usually on a percentage basis. 7 to 8% of their starting body weight. More if they come from bigger numbers, but about an average of 7 to 8%. That's not pounds or kilos. That's percent of starting body weight.
Mm.
That's in the first couple of months. And then weight loss continues up to about a year. And then they maintain it. On average, we did a 2-year follow-up study. We published this in the Journal of Nutrition and Weight Loss, showing that at 2 years out, there was still not a single pound of regained weight over the cohort. Now, obviously, some individual people did regain some weight, but for every pound that they gained back, someone else lost an additional pound, canceling it out in the group cohort. So across the whole group, no weight regain at all over 2 years. And we're doing a 6-year follow-up study right now. So we'll see what the numbers look like pretty soon when we start to analyze those data. Now, another interesting study that we published with a very large sample size, it was 4,509 people that we published about 3 years ago. This study showed that across every age group, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, across every age group, weight loss was fast and the same, like the same amount, the same speed, the same rate of weight loss. Even people in their 50s and 60s and 70s were losing weight as well as people in their 20s and 30s, which is unheard of, right? Everyone knows it's harder to release weight when you're older. And of course, that's because of estrogen. Estrogen facilitates the effect of insulin, and insulin's this fat release and fat storage hormone. And you need estrogen to facilitate that insulin. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to lose weight as readily, especially around the stomach, right? The gut, the upper arms, these areas where people store weight. And, in both women and men, estrogen tends to go down after the 50s. But what happens is when you stop eating sugar and flour, like you do on Bright Line Eating, now you're not jerking around your blood sugar the same way. Now you're not relying on insulin as much. Now it doesn't matter if you don't have as much estrogen. So the Bright Line Eating program levels the playing field, if you will, giving 50 and 60 and 70 and 80-year-olds a leg up, where suddenly they find they're able to shed weight like they used to when they were 20 years old. So they love that. That's remarkable. And other published studies, we published a study showing the psychosocial benefits of doing Bright Line Eating. So we showed that people in the Bright Line Eating boot camp experience whopping, not just small effects, but like p less than 0.0001, like whopping effects in terms of, in the first couple months, just through the boot camp, improvements in happiness, well-being, quality of life, and flourishing. They just love their life more. Improvements in feelings of being loved, supported, and connected in the world, and not lonely anymore. Reduced depression, like it reduces depression. Fewer days of poor mental health, and better energy. So these were all huge effects. Then we looked at people in general versus people who had started the boot camp during a very specific time window. I'm talking about April, May, and June of 2020. Do you remember April, May, and June of 2020?
Lockdown.
Remember how messed up that was, right? We were all just reeling, like, what is going on? And people who started the Bright Line Eating boot camp during that window of time and were in it then had all of those same effects, even statistically greater, like those huge effects, bigger. And so what that shows is that the Bright Line Eating bootcamp builds in some sort of resilience as well. Like if times are harder, it works even better, which is, I think, really fascinating.
Wow.
So those are some of our published studies.